Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time! Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, how are you? Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Glad to have you along as always. Appreciate you being with us, no matter where or how you're listening on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, the Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, or 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, the voice of the region. And in Fort Wayne, on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380, The Fan. Keep it locked right where you got it the rest of the day. And if you're following along on YouTube, please give us a like. We would greatly appreciate it. Appreciate everybody jumping on the hotline as well. Another full day ahead. Dylan Sinn will join us here in this first hour. Kyle, Ned, and Rip bring Bozich in the second hour. College basketball, it's a cornucopia. It is upon us. The tournaments have started. Those that have not are about to, including the Big Ten tournament, which gets underway today in Indianapolis at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. And we will be coming to you from there tomorrow and hopefully Friday if Indiana can get a win against Oregon in their opening round game there. And this game has turned into a must-win, in my opinion, for Indiana, because I'm seeing that Lenardi and, well, the last time I checked, I don't know that they've moved, but I think they're on the play-in game. And that means you lose to Oregon, I don't know that you can hold on to that spot. I thought that they were a little more solidly in there. We'll have to see. But win and you're in. That's pretty simple. Losing, you go home. Indiana played Oregon pretty well out in Eugene until the end. But they'll have a quasi-home game tomorrow when they take on the Ducks at noon. So we'll see what the Hoosiers can get done, but they're not the only one out making things happen. Gonzaga avenged their 2 losses to St. Mary's this year with a win in their conference championship. So they secure a bid to the tournament. I believe someone stole a bid last night in one of the other tournaments. But and that starts to squeeze the field, but it's not like a couple of years ago there were just an overabundance of them and it squeezed some teams out. That's part of why I think Indiana's even on the bubble right now. You don't have as many of those that are going to happen this year, but you don't want to put it in the hands of anybody else. You have the opportunity to take care of business yourself. Do it. Do it, people. You've reached the halfway part of the week, and the rest of the week will be easy because the tournaments are started, like I said. So you'll have things to watch, to pay attention to, make it go a little faster. Who is in right now? Who's not in? The top overall seed is still Auburn, which I absolutely agree with. The last team in right now, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, The one I'm looking at, which is Lenardi, is the last 4 in. And Oklahoma, Indiana, Xavier, and Ohio State. So Ohio State is a team that you don't want to win on their first game because they're fighting for their life. If they lose, they're out. So I thought that the Indiana-Ohio State game was a lose and you're out situation last when they just played. Apparently wasn't the case. They're keeping Ohio State in because of those high metrics numbers. But there's no doubting if Indiana or Ohio State lose in their first round at the Big Ten tournament, I think that is going to drop them down to the first 4 out situation. So they're trying to get some teams in that probably don't deserve to be in a normal year, Indiana being one of those. But they have the opportunity. We'll have to see what they can do. Indiana can beat Oregon. Obviously, they played well with them out in Eugene, like I said. Utah State, Arkansas, Baylor, and San Diego State have the last 4 byes at the moment. So right now, Indiana's in Dayton. That is not fun. Great venue. Don't get me wrong. But that's not a situation you have to go through because you have to go play the play-in game, then find out where you're traveling, then immediately travel, and sometimes play again. We shall see. Russell says he thinks Oregon is already in Indianapolis. No, of course they are. They have, as a matter of fact, they had to be in by yesterday. That's the Big Ten rule. You have to be in town wherever you're going the day before. Brian asked, does Indiana deserve to be in? No, not really. Not in a normal year. If this was a normal year, they wouldn't make it. They would be, and they might not be that far off, but they would still be off. But this is this year, and things are going how they're going, and so they do. Does Ohio State deserve to be in? I don't think so. Indiana swept them. Indiana beat Ohio State on the road and at home. So, and they're only 2 spots above Ohio State. So they're giving Ohio State credit for some other things that they have done, winning wise. Brian says ESPN bracketology has IU. Yeah, last 4 in, right. I just read that. Thank you. Gritty asking, who is going to the game tomorrow? She's heading up to Indianapolis. That's a great question. How many of you are heading to the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis? You know, it's a unique experience that you're not going to get to have as frequently as you do now. As I am, we've already got some of the schedules out, but the Big Ten tournament is going to be moving around a bit more. You're going to see it in Detroit, Las Vegas. It's going to be moving around, although Indianapolis is without question the best site to have any of that stuff. But we'll see. We shall see. Fred says St. Francis of Pennsylvania won their NEC tourney over number 1 seed Central Connecticut with a losing record. Oh, is that one of the bid stealers? Yeah. Yes. That was exactly the one I was talking about. Thank you, Fred. Very much. Andy says it's amazing how IU has allowed this job to slip to where the top candidates seem to be Ben McCollum and Brownell. Doesn't mean those guys couldn't work, but truly underwhelming for a must-get-right hire. Well, but how has it slipped? when you talk about, it's not like they've let things slip away. The only thing that Brad Stevens was never a chance. That was never an opportunity. So that was never in the cards. Dusty May probably wasn't either, to be truthful. Now, after once he got to Michigan, he was there. That deal was last week. So it's not been that they've missed out on guys. Now, whether TJ Otzenberger has quietly said no, which that is very possible, and if he's not going to be receiving an offer, that would be an indication that that is what I would think. So if you take him out, that now you're losing. That's losing a candidate. We'll see how man, Indiana has always had timing issues. They seem to never set themselves up at the right time to do things. And I don't want to beat a dead horse about last year. It should have made the job. Switch then. Yeah, well, that's neither here nor there. They didn't. And it's going to be up to Scott Dolson. It's his job to do what he has to do and get the guy that he has to get. They're not going to hire Chris Beard. Stop with the Chris Beard stuff. Jason says they seem to have gotten the timing right on a football coach. Yeah, they definitely did there. But it has not happened on the basketball side. It has not. And they have to get this right. I mean, it's ridiculous in the age of NIL transfer portal that Indiana is not a top program. That is what is amazing. That's like, come on. Andy said, seemed like the floor was a Cronin, McDermott, etc. Those are tier 3 candidates. I'm not sure. I definitely don't agree with that. And I don't know how in the world they could be. They're not even tier 2 candidates. They're tier 1 candidates. You may not like them, but I assure you, those are tier 1 candidates. Greg McDermott and Mick Cronin have both been successful basketball coaches. They've been more successful than what you've had in Indiana for damn sure. So there's that. How about that Pacers win last night? Yes. I think Pete may have mentioned that a minute ago. Did I go right about that? Yeah, let's talk about Halliburton's crazy 4-point play in front of Reggie Miller to beat the Bucks last night. 3.9 seconds left. And he gets the ball along the sideline and going towards the corner, just puts up a Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, take your pick. So I didn't realize Reggie Miller was there until after the fact. But just drains a sideways fadeaway 3-point prayer and gets fouled and sinks it. The Bucks can't do anything in the final 3 seconds, and the Pacers come away with an improbable 115-114 win over Milwaukee, no less. Very important. But crazy finish. That is, and it's something they needed. They'd been on a bit of a skid. But we'll see if they can keep it rolling and get back on the winning side of things. But man, was that was fun to watch, no doubt. Now, hopefully, the Pacers can keep it rolling. Maybe Indiana can catch some of that magic. It'll be in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Yeah, the Pacers have to vacate it for a while now as the Big Ten tournament invades beginning today. You had to take all that make the court changing and all that stuff. Let's see. Schedule for today in the Big Ten tournament, by the way, gets underway, like I said. I think that 3:30 is the first game. And that are these are the lowest 6 teams in the bracket. Northwestern versus Minnesota at 3:30, Iowa, Ohio State at 6, and Southern Cal versus Rutgers at 8:30. Ohio State with the now see, I wonder in this scenario, Ohio State is playing Iowa, a lower seed, easier game. Indiana plays a higher seed team, a higher placing team in the Big Ten. Does a win over Iowa mean anything? So if Ohio State was to beat Iowa but then lose their next game and Indiana lost their first game, how is that going to affect things? Would it have been easier for Indiana to be playing today, get a win, lose tomorrow, break even, and probably stay in the same spot? It's weird. It'll see how this stuff breaks out. We've got to take a break. Appreciate you being with us. Plenty coming up today on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. From the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, glad to have you along. We're back with more right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Waiting for Dylan Sinn to hopefully get settled in. He's having some technical difficulties at the moment, which is not a problem. Well, it's not a problem for us, but problem for him. So he'll be with us in just a bit. Yesterday, some games that were underway. The ACC first round. I didn't realize the ACC was playing. But then again, did anybody realize they were playing this season? Da-dum-bumps. California beats Virginia Tech 83-72. Then in the American East playoffs, someone was giving me grief yesterday on a comment from the show about yesterday. I was talking with Dylan, I think, and I thought that one team was a bid stealer because there are 31 conferences, people. 31 conferences. There are 352 different Division I basketball teams. Yeah, get some of them confused here and there because half of those you never hear about, never talk about all year long. The only time you see or hear their names is now. But anyway, in the American East, Bryant knocks off Albany. That's a semifinal game. In the Southland Tournament semifinal, Lamar beats Nichols to roll on. Gonzaga won the championship of the West Coast Conference over St. Mary's, 58-51. And Central Florida wins the Big 12 championship over Utah. Was Central Florida expected to go? I haven't followed them much this year. Montana wins the Big Sky championship over Idaho, 78-55. Not much close there. Now, lots of games on tap today. It's when it really gets busy. Busy. As these tournaments begin of all kinds. You've got Virginia, Georgia Tech in the ACC, Cincinnati versus Iowa State. Wait a minute. Didn't I just read the Big 12 championship? That makes no sense. Well, we'll see. But anyway, these are the games that are scheduled. I'm going to skip over some of these. Notre Dame versus North Carolina, Colorado, West Virginia, Texas, Vanderbilt, Northwestern Minnesota, as I mentioned, at 3:30 to kick things off in the Big Ten. Butler at Providence also today. Fresno State, Nevada, Lamar East. I'm trying to see some of the other ones. Iowa at Ohio State. I mentioned that. That's game 2 in the Big Ten tournament. That's at 6 p.m. this evening up at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. DePaul, Georgetown, former IU player there. And let's see, Navy, Kansas State, Baylor. That's at 7 o'clock over in the Big 12. Cal, Stanford. Now, that's hilarious. California is playing Stanford in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Let that one sink in. California and Stanford are playing each other in the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament. That is, but no different, I guess. UCLA and USC played for the championship of the Big Ten women's tournament a few days back. Seton Hall and Villanova go at it tonight. USC Rutgers tonight, capping off today's Big Ten action. Oklahoma, Georgia. Oklahoma, a team that's trying to sneak in to the NCAA tournament. They a lot of late games tonight. I mean, it's going to be basketball wall to wall for the next few weeks. Central Florida, Kansas. Kansas, man, they've had a disappointing year to say the least. Syracuse, SMU, Montana, Northern Colorado, and that looks to be it. I mean, there's a few other games, but I didn't call them all out. Those are the ones of note. It is my favorite time of year. And I'm looking forward to getting up to, I may head up to Gamebridge today, check out some of the action pick up the credential, you go through all the rigmarole just to get it out of the way. But it's an exciting time. It's exciting time for the players. Who's going to win the NCAA tournament? Who's in your Final Four? Seriously. Who is in your Final Four? It's hard for me to go against Auburn. Brown, oh boy, a lot of coaching chatter on the hotline as well. Brad Brownell getting mentioned because he is from the state. He's been at Clemson 14 years and made the NCAA 4 times. Yeah, his best stuff has been in the last few years at least. But you also have to realize none of these guys are doing what they're doing at Indiana. So, which will offer a lot more opportunities. I don't know who it's going to be. I've only known who it's not going to be and have stuck to that. Brian Buckon says, hey, Jim, how are you? But he has a question. Do I think people in the head office will get out of the way and let Scott handle it and make it? I don't think that has been a problem at all. That has not been an issue with this hire in any way. And by head office, the only people that would be that could have been in front of him were president of the board of trustees, which that I think the last hire took care of meddling by anyone. Pam Whitten seems to be the perfect type of athletics president because she seems to be pretty hands-off. She has an athletics director. That's not what she does. She's the president of a university, which the athletics falls under her purview, of course. Everything does. But like any business, you have a CEO. Pam Whitten is the CEO of Indiana. But you have major department heads. The CEO is not actively running these departments. The CEO is not actively making decisions for these departments. If it's a major decision, they have to approve it, but they're not making it. They're not, and I'm not saying they're not going to be involved at all, but they're not involved in the gist of it because they have people that they trust that are heads of these departments. In essence, Scott Dolson is the vice president of athletics. He runs the athletics department. Now, some people got in his way last time. There's no doubt about that. No, that will not be the case this time. Because football is a shining example of what happens when the wrong people don't get involved. So this is going to be, that's another reason why you haven't heard anything about this coaching hire now, as our good friend Dylan Sinn joining us. How are you, brother? Well, we got you muted somehow. You might have to unmute yourself. He's been having technical difficulties all day long, and there you go. Nope, you're unmuted, but your mic's not working, man. Oh, poor Dylan. We'll just keep him rolling, and you just keep talking, and when I hear your voice, I'll let you know. But
okay,
there you go.
Yeah. Can you hear me? All right.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard, my friend. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you for having me, Jim. I appreciate it.
It's been a rough morning for you, it seems like, brother.
Yeah, it's we're having technical difficulties with our laptops at our office, but we're trying to figure it out, and I got my backup one ready to go here. So
yeah, well, it's a long day because this is the day that, at least around here, the Big Ten tournament begins So it starts a cornucopia of basketball, but we've also got high school regionals that are going on. Teams from all over, teams from Fort Wayne, teams from Evansville, teams from Southern Indiana, teams from the region. And and of course, the teams from Indianapolis area. But it's a lot of basketball. And I love it.
Yeah,
Big Ten, though, baby. Indiana, I think this is a do or die situation. I wasn't thinking that after they beat Ohio State, because it seemed like they were moved into the off of the Dayton bracket. But now they seem to have found themselves back onto the play-in game.
Yeah, for some people, right? I think Lenardi has them at ESPN, has them in Dayton again.
Yeah, well, so as does Mike DeCourcy. So those two are, when both of those guys have you there, you're probably there.
Right. And so I do think it would be good for Indiana to win this game, right?
I think it's a necessity. You don't think it's a necessity?
I think if they lost, they would be sweating it out on Sunday. I think. I'm not sure which way it would go if they lost. Let's put it.
Well, I think part of it would have to do with Ohio State.
Yeah.
Even though all right, let's say, and I brought this up a minute ago. All right, Ohio State plays today, which means they play on the first day, which means they're lower seeded Big Ten team. Let's say they beat I've already forgotten. I think they play Iowa. Let's say they beat Iowa, but who is a lower seeded team than they are? Then tomorrow they go back and they get beat. Indiana plays tomorrow and gets beat. Does Ohio State's win over Iowa carry more weight than a singular loss by Indiana to Oregon, a higher seeded team?
I don't believe so.
Especially, especially because Indiana swept Ohio State this year.
Yeah, it's weird because the committee takes into account head to head, to be clear, but the metric, all of Indiana's metrics are worse than Ohio State, unfortunately, which is why the metrics are tough sometimes, right? Because Indiana did beat Ohio State twice. I do think Indiana is the better team. They have the better record. They have the better Big Ten record. But Ohio State does have that 20-point win over Kentucky in the non-conference schedule, and that is really, really carrying them from a metric standpoint. So it's tough. I do think that if Indiana and Ohio State end up getting knocked out in the same round, say Ohio State wins today and then loses tomorrow, and then Indiana also loses tomorrow, I think Indiana would still be ahead of them. I think the teams you more have to worry about are teams like Xavier, who is right there on the bubble with Indiana. Teams like Oklahoma. Oklahoma has opportunities for quad one victories here in the conference tournament. So we'll see. Again, we've talked about this before. Conference tournament games are kind of weighted a little bit less than regular season games, although maybe not quite as much less as Indiana would like at this point. So I think to make it simple, Indiana should just go out and beat Oregon and kind of remove any doubt. I think that would be the best plan for Indiana, and I'm sure the Hoosiers are thinking that way as well.
You're a wise man, Dylan Sinn. Boy, I wish I'd have thought of that. But no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think it's a must win, but it also depends on what the teams around them do. Ohio State, if they were to lose to Iowa, that would help alleviate some undercurrent of the problem for Indiana and the teams either right above them or right below them. I can't remember all of them, but Indiana, you've got Oklahoma, who was in front of them. What does Oklahoma do? They played today, I believe. Because they were close to the bottom in the SEC, so they do play today, I believe. They play Georgia tonight, and so I think is Georgia fighting to get in, or is Georgia must already be in then?
I think Georgia is slightly ahead of Indiana. They're like on the 9 or 10 line, so I think
they're ahead of Oklahoma as well.
It would be good for Indiana if Georgia won that game.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it'd be close to a quad. I think it'd be a quad 2 or almost a quad 1 victory for Oklahoma. So that'd be something that Indiana does not want to happen. So I have to be rooting for Georgia in that one.
Well, right now, Indiana and Oklahoma are sitting on the same bracket line.
Yeah.
So it's does that mean they have them playing each other in the play-in game, I guess?
That seems like that would be. Are you looking at the
Yes.
courses? Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm looking at Lenardi's. Don't tell
Lenardi's.
Mike, please. It was just easier to pull this one up. But yeah, if that game for Oklahoma also will carry weight, but if they both lose, maybe it's a wash.
Exactly.
But here's the thing: it shouldn't come down to this. Indiana should never have allowed it to come down to this. You're putting your fate in everybody else's hands. And
they can't erase. They can erase all of it. They beat Oregon. They're in. Right. It's one of those things where they still control their fate to some extent. You just have to beat Oregon. It wouldn't be that difficult.
And it's going to be a quasi home game for Indiana.
That is the thing. They have it set up where, first of all, the game's at noon. That's 9 o'clock Oregon time. And so it's one of those things where it's a body clock game for Oregon. We're going to see if that affects them at all. And Indiana is, as you said, basically a home game. The situation sets up pretty well for them to kind of just remove any doubt and go in there and win that game and basically say, hey, we don't really care what's going on elsewhere. We're going to get this done right now and make sure that we're not sweating it out on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. And it's going to carry and if Indiana were to lose and not make the NCAA tournament, they would be the first team in line for the Big Ten to play in the Crown tournament in Las Vegas. Yeah. Now, I reached out to Indiana a week or so ago and said, hey, if Indiana doesn't make the NCAA tournament, will Indiana play in the Crown, and who makes that decision? I didn't get an answer, but I don't see Indiana playing in the Crown in Las Vegas.
As far as I understand it, now you can correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I understand it, they're required to play in the
I
Crown.
agree. There is an agreement within the conferences because this is a partnership between Fox, but the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East.
Yeah.
So you're right. And that's why I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be a question. But I'm curious because of the situation that Indiana is currently in.
Yeah.
Would they not? I wonder if they would ask for a
waiver.
Release.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Like, can they beg off of it just because of the unique circumstances of their? I mean, yeah, it's one of those things.
And I think that they would be allowed. I think that would be allowed, to be honest with you, because you don't want to put one of your conference partners in peril, especially in the situation they're in. It may hamper what they're trying to do, because what if the team of the guy that's going to be the next guy is done playing before Indiana is? That's not a great scenario, I understand, to play out, but it is a possibility. Yes. So that would be kind of weird for that, because the Crown's a weaker tournament, so there's a chance that Indiana could go further.
Yeah.
And so it could be a weird that's why I just don't see Indiana playing in that Crown tournament, because of that. They definitely do not want to outlast the team of whomever the next guy is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a really interesting situation where it basically if that were indeed the case, like Scott Dolson would have to basically make the hire behind the scenes and then just kind of wait until the season is over to announce it. It'd be a really odd situation kind of in the athletic department. Like you said, I don't think that would happen. I do think that probably the Crown and the Fox would give Indiana a waiver. Now, but the other part of it is that's high drama. The Crown might want Indiana just to have something to talk about. So it might be one of those things where that waiver might be a little bit more difficult to obtain than maybe Indiana would like. So we'll see whether that's something that comes up, whether Fox says, no, you're the big brand. We want you in there. You signed this deal. Please come play for us. So it's one of those things where Indiana might have a little bit of a difficult negotiation on its hands, because it is like Indiana's a big brand. People want to watch Indiana. The Crown wants Indiana for the ratings. The Crown wants Indiana for the story. So I do wonder whether that would be something that there would have to be some kind of there would have to be some kind of negotiation that goes on behind the scenes if indeed Indiana is left out of the NCAA tournament.
And speaking of this quote unquote coaching search, the fans are just starving for information. And hence, there have been rumors started over the last 2 weeks a couple of times, which is a little aggravating because they weren't started by fans. And then those rumors got walked back, specifically about Chris Beard. And a lot of the fans, they want him, and I get it. And do I think he would do a great job? Hell yes. Why wouldn't I? And I don't have a dog in the fight. So that's another thing people need to understand. When I give you my opinion on it, it's not because I want this guy, I want that guy, I don't want this. I don't care. It's not part of what I do. But Chris Beard, I cannot say with 100% certainty, but I'm going to go with 99% certainty. Chris Beard is not being considered. And that is not just an opinion based on nothing. I did have a conversation with someone who led me in the direction of confirming my beliefs without, there being a direct, is this the case? Is that the case? Because that way, sometimes you get information between the lines.
Yeah.
And you can believe that or not believe that, but that's a way of, for whom you're talking to plausibly deny having said anything. And I get that. I'm fine with that because I'd rather have that than nothing. And I am 99% sure Chris Beard is not going to be in consideration for this job. Doesn't matter. I understand that he's a great candidate. I understand the timing is perfect. And that sucks for IU fans because they cannot get the stinking timing right to get the guy. And yes, I understand that he is probably perfect for that job. And it does suck because Indiana would probably be winning next season with someone like Chris Beard. He's the best candidate left, but he's not really a candidate, in my opinion.
I will say one thing that's basically what you're seeing right now. And again, this, like you said, people are starving for information. What's happening is that Scott Dolson is playing this so close to the vest, right? A lot of the rumors you're hearing are probably coming from boosters who are trying to get their guy, right? And they've reached out to Scott and said, hey, I want this guy. And Scott's like, okay, well, I'll think about it. And so they go to whoever reporter and say, hey, Scott said he's thinking about it, that kind of thing. I think that's probably where a lot of the rumors are coming from, where it's like, you have this guy, and then you have this guy, and then you have this guy. And it's just going to be like that until we get to end of March, middle of April, right? We still have probably 2 more weeks of this.
I've been saying between the end of the second weekend and the start of the Final Four.
Yeah,
but it could be after the Final Four.
Again, there's a possibility the coach that they've decided they want to target is still playing, right? It's one of those things.
Well, you want him to still be playing, but
exactly.
I don't know that you want him to go to the Final Four because 2 reasons. A, that makes you wait longer. B, it's going to be a lot harder to leave the Final Four team.
If he goes to the Final Four, he might not want to leave. It's one of those things. You need a Goldilocks candidate who's like, okay, you made a nice run in the tournament, but not too nice. You know what I mean? And so it is one of those things where I do think it does seem like Indiana is down to me, the way that I am looking at this right now is that we are looking at either Mick Cronin, who continues to circulate around. I know his buyout's a little bit higher, or mid-major candidate X, right? We don't know who that would be, but those.
And as much as Ben McCollum's name is coming out, 2 things about him. A, he is a direct and perfect fit for Iowa, which is most likely going to part ways with Fran McCaffrey. He's from Iowa. less pressure, more probably his style. He's out there, or I just see him stay. And plus, I don't think I want to watch that kind of basketball.
I'm not sure if people realize this. They play the slowest pace in the country. Drake does this year. Boy, howdy.
It's like watching paint dry.
Yes. Now, the other part of it is, and I don't know if people have really realized this, he is testy with the media. He does not like it when media criticizes his guys. So if you thought Mike Woodson was a little bit testy with the media, Ben McCollum is significantly worse.
Well, he doesn't belong in Indiana then.
I think a lot of people are saying Ben McCollum without realizing the kind of personality that Ben McCollum is. He is a little prickly. He is going to defend his guys and not like it when the media says stuff. So maybe he would be a better fit at Iowa than he would be at Indiana.
Dusty Banner says it's probably 70% beard with the fans. I don't doubt that, especially now as some of the other guys have been eliminated and he continues to gobble up. I get that. Like I said, don't think that I don't understand it and see it and agree with a lot of it. I'm just telling you what I think is going to happen. That's it. A name I threw out yesterday, and it's not because I had been on it before or whatever, Chris Collins.
Yeah,
I think Chris Collins is a lot better pick than people are giving it credit for. He is a hell of a coach. He has been buried at Northwestern, people. They don't have NIL. They got smart kids. It's hard to, first of all, it's hard to get kids into their school. You don't just go to Northwestern. Hell, it's hard to get in. So I'm pretty sure that at a school like Indiana, not as tough, NIL resources, in-state recruiting, his background, his family, I think he would be a good selection. I'm not saying he should be the number one candidate. I don't have a number one candidate. He's someone that I think that is there, but has been quietly under the radar.
I had him on my original list. I think he'd be a good hire. And I understand the idea that he's only made 3 NCAA tournaments in 9 years.
He's been buried at Northwestern.
Yes. Northwestern had never made the NCAA tournament in its history before they hired him. He's been there 3 times. He has done a really, really good job there.
They were fighting for the Big Ten championship 2 years ago.
Yes.
Against Purdue, no less.
Yes. They beat Purdue each of the last 2 years when Purdue was really good.
With Zach Edey.
With Zach Edey, they went. I think they went 2-1 against the Zach Edey, those 2 good Zach Edey teams. They were really, really good. And they've beaten Indiana 5 times in a row. So it's one of those things. Maybe it's if you can't beat them, join them type of thing. So I do think that I think Chris Collins, and let me add this on top of that. Before he was at Northwestern, he was the top assistant to Coach K at Duke for a long, long time, almost a decade, I think. The fact that he was at Duke means he understands what it's like to be at Indiana, right? The pressure of that, the fishbowl environment that it is. And I think that is you want a candidate who kind of knows that to a certain extent, right? That is coming into this with clear eyes about what the expectations are and what the environment is going to be like. I think that really puts him higher on my list, having that experience as well.
Absolutely. I've got to take a quick break. I think I've gotten off kilter here, so I don't want to do that. So let's hit that. We've got Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us. Basketball cornucopia tournament. It's all happening. Back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us here as it's tournament time. Who's in your Final Four, real quick?
It's a great question. I mean, obviously, without seeing how the bracket's going to line up yet, I mean, I don't know how you can not pick Duke and Auburn. Those two
I don't have Duke going to the Final Four. I have them so getting knocked off in the I'm going to have them losing in an Elite Eight championship game.
Sure. It's one of those things where they're so good. Like I saw from based on like an advanced metric standpoint, they have the three best freshmen in the country. All each of the top three is a Duke guy. Flag obviously number one by a pretty wide margin. They're really, really good. They beat Auburn, which is no easy feat. Auburn is fantastic. And so it's one of those things where I think those are the two best teams in the country. Again, it depends on their tournament draw. It depends on matchups.
They crushed Illinois, and I like Illinois.
Yeah, just took them apart.
But they just beat them like they were a Division II team, man.
It really, really impressive. That's the thing is we're kind of used to these teams that are loaded with freshmen kind of being a little bit shaky just because like the freshmen aren't used to being in this type of environment. But it is one of those things where these guys are ready to go. They have been ready from the moment they stepped on the court back in October. And I think they are going to make a very nice run here. And it is one of those things where those are probably two that I would pick almost regardless of the matchup. But then you have all of these SEC teams, right? Beyond Auburn, you have Alabama and Tennessee and Florida. And I really like St. John's. I think that one of the things I like about St. John's is
Rick Pitino. It starts with Rick Pitino for me.
Yeah, I mean, but what it is they don't going into March. I like teams that are really good without making a lot of threes, because when you're in the NCAA tournament, you're going to have a game where you don't make a ton of threes. You're just kind of cold from the field. And if you are a team that relies on that, you're going to get knocked out at some point, right? St. John's is not a good three-point shooting team, and I think that is a positive for them. They know how to gut through a game when they're going 4 of 17 from beyond the arc, right? So I like St. John's for that reason. For the same reason, I like Michigan State. I like Michigan State because they are super athletic. They play really, really hard. They don't shoot a ton of threes, and so you can't really get them to. You're not going to get them to kind of brick their way to a loss in the second round, right? Now, a team could play a zone like Indiana did and win a game. I wonder why other teams have not done that, maybe because Indiana gave the blueprint and Michigan State figured it out. But I do think that's something to consider going forward as well.
I agree with Christopher. I really like Florida. They're kind of, it's hard to say they're quietly there because they're possibly going to be a number one seed. They have to be the quietest potential number one seed that I can recall. But I really like Florida. I had to get K-Bro on here to talk about the Gators, but yeah, and Tennessee. Tennessee is I don't like Alabama to get to the Final Four. Tennessee is a team that could. Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, those three are tough. I expect any of those three to make it or possibly win a national championship. Outside of those three and Duke, now we're talking about, okay, now it would be kind of not necessarily a sleeper, but not a favorite. Who's that next team or teams that you think that could slide in there? And you're right. It depends on the bracket because it depends on matchups. And it's not necessarily the matchup for you. It could be the matchup for the team you were going to play when they play somebody. But we've seen Indiana get derailed back in the days of Jordan Hulls and those guys when they ended up, and it all happened because they lost the last game to Michigan in the conference finale, which took away their number one overall seed, which would have prevented them from playing against Syracuse that year. And that stinking zone of Jim Boeheim's that just flummoxed Indiana and took them out. Otherwise, that's a Final Four team.
Yeah.
Essentially a national championship team. But that's how it goes, people. That's how it goes. And so the matchups are going to be key. Matchups are going to be key for Indiana as much as anybody.
Yeah.
Indiana has to have and that's why people have talked about, well, what if Indiana goes on a run? And I'm like, sorry, I don't see it. They don't have the makeup to match up with the different teams that are going to be out there. They're not going to be playing, Big Ten teams. So they're going to have to play in a bunch of different styles. I don't think that they're built for it personally. They can beat certain teams like Purdue. They match up really well with Purdue. And obviously they beat them once handedly, should have beat them twice probably, but that's because of the matchup.
It is endlessly funny to me that during this era when Indiana has been like the fans have been entirely frustrated with Mike Woodson, and rightfully so. Again, they have matched up with Purdue extremely well for 3 out of the 4 years. They terrorized Purdue, and
4-4, and
4-4.
should honestly have it should be 5-3.
I mean, honestly,
I think that would be remarkably funny.
It's 6-2 was not off the table. If you remember the first year Mike Woodson coached, they beat Purdue in Bloomington when Purdue was number 1 on the Rob Finney shot. Later that year, they went to West Lafayette in the regular season finale. They were down by 2 with like 10 seconds left, and they perfectly executed this play to get Parker Stewart a 3-pointer on the left wing. He's wide open. They couldn't have run this play any better, and he puts up this shot, and it just hits the back rim, and it would have been the game winner. They would have been they could have been 6-2 against Purdue. As it was, they were 6-2 against the spread against Purdue. It is just, again, like you said, it is a matchups game, right? And Indiana for 4 years, with the exception of last year when they just weren't good enough to really make it count, they were a bad matchup for Purdue, which is endlessly funny to me. As someone who covers Purdue and knows that is their like Achilles heel, is teams that really, really guard on the perimeter and get after you in that way. It was a problem for Purdue, and we'll see whether going into the tournament this year, that is something that bothers Purdue as well. I do think for Indiana, if you look at, I think it's CBS right now, has them first of all firmly in the field. They are a 10 seed in CBS's bracketology currently, but they are currently matched up with number 7 seed Kansas in the first round, which I think would be a fantastic matchup. I think that'd be a lot of fun, first of all, and second of all, I think it'd be a pretty good matchup for Indiana. Again, they like playing against Hunter Dickinson. They really do. They had his number when he was at Michigan.
Everybody's like playing against him this year because they suck.
Yes, it's one of those things where they have not lived up to their expectations going into the tournament. It looks like they're going to be a 6 or a 7 seed, depending on how the Big 12 tournament goes for them. So I think if that is the matchup, obviously things can change and probably will change over the next couple of days. But if that were indeed the matchup, I think that'd be fascinating because I think Indiana would have a real chance to win that one.
Quickly, Zap asked why was the spring game, no, Heath asked why was the spring football game moved to Thursday night? It's because it's Easter weekend, and the Saturday before Easter did not seem to be the time to do it, so they moved it to Thursday. Unfortunately, I know it's going to affect a lot of people being able to go, but that's that. Okay. There's my man, Senor Ache. How are you, sir? My old Spanish teacher back in high school. Great. He is also a big IU fan. Great to see you, Senor Ache. I hope you are doing well. No chicle en la boca. Menos 10 putas. That was one of the things. You could not chew gum in Senor Ache's class. And it was so funny when someone would either forget or have it in, and he'd catch it. And he's like, oh, por favor, Senor. I don't know what Dylan would be in Spanish. Do you?
Diego is closest, I think. Yeah.
Por favor, Senor Diego. La chicle en la boca, menos 10 puntas. Just loved it. Loved that class. We got to make piñatas every year. That was a blast. But it's great stuff. And that's high school teachers are some of the best memories that you can have. You've got good ones and you've got bad ones. You got the ones that you like, he was a jackass. And then you got the ones that, oh man, it was fun. I love that. And they stick with you forever. It truly is. And Senor Ache, you're one of those. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you jumping on with us as well. William says everyone needs to be excited for whoever Dolson chooses. That's true. I don't know if excited is the word I would use. I would say accepting. You just need to accept it because it is what it is. It's going to be what it is going to be. And it's going to be whom it's going to be. And I truly think that he is going to do the best job possible. I think that he did a remarkable job with Kurt Cignetti, obviously. Now, can you catch lightning in a bottle twice? That's going to be tough.
I think that's the thing is that they don't need a Kurt Cignetti, right? Like the Kurt Cignetti is Kurt Cignetti because
can you imagine a Kurt Cignetti in that position? That would be like, hey, Rick Pitino is a Kurt Cignetti in a different manner. Rick Pitino has got the achievement galore, but he has more energy than anybody. There's no coach out there that's more energetic than he is, and he's 4 years old or whatever.
I do think, and I'm going to throw out a name here, and I know there are going to be some people that don't like it, but the reason that I like it is because he has the personality of a Kurt Cignetti. He is one of the things that I would like for Indiana's next coach to have is a little bit of swagger, right? I think that was part of the problem with Archie is that he never had any swagger, even from the day he was hired.
Let me see. We could go over it. Archie had no swagger. Archie had no people skills. Archie didn't like people. Archie couldn't recruit. Archie couldn't coach very well. Should I go on?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do think one thing that made it's not just that Cignetti wins, right? Like obviously he won, he came in, he won at a program that doesn't win, right? But what he had an ultimate belief in himself that this was going to happen, right? And I think Mike Woodson had that to a certain extent, but he went about kind of showing it a little bit abrasively, I think is the word that I would use. And so I think that you need someone. I would like the next coach if I'm Scott Dolson and I'm putting together a list of qualifications that I think the next coach I would like to have. I think a little bit of swagger and some projected confidence would be really good. I think Will Wade would be a great candidate. And I understand that.
I cannot get past the strong ass offer.
I know. And I know people are going to say that. And here is the thing. Will Wade, it's take out what he did at LSU, right? Everything that happened at LSU, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? He is a dang good basketball coach. Like when he is not out there recruiting and trying to bend the rules a little bit, he is a really, really darn good basketball coach. He won at Chattanooga. He won at VCU. He's now winning at McNeese State, who had not won 20 games in about 15 years. He's won 30. He is a very, very good basketball coach who believes in himself in a really, really, really obvious way. And I think that if you brought him into Indiana, it would be one of those things where the fan base would have to get past the strong ass offer. I understand that. I get it.
I don't think the fan base would have a problem getting past anything.
That's what I'm saying. I think if you brought in a coach who was that kind of confident, I think they would embrace him. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Scott Dolson would consider him. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I am saying that.
So if he considers him, why would he not consider Chris Beard?
I think they're different. I do think they're different.
And the dude was under an FBI investigation.
I know. And maybe Scott
and
Dolson
he freaking did it. That's a different. And he did what he did. Chris Beard, there's a lot of ambiguity there.
But they're different infractions. Like I think we can understand why. Like they could be considered different in terms of for another job. Right now, I'm not saying that Scott Dolson is saying they're different. I'm saying that maybe Scott Dolson is putting them in the same bucket, which is we're not even considering them. But I do think from a personality standpoint, that is a guy that I think that would work really well. Again, not saying Scott Dolson's considering it. I'm saying I think it would work really, really well at Indiana.
Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Appreciate you as always, brother.
Absolutely.
I will see you today or tomorrow. When are you heading to Indianapolis?
Tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait, brother. Have a great one.
All right. You as well.
Thank you, sir. Hey, we've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We'll take a break, and we're back. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Wednesday. And now we are joined by Sir Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Jim. I'm doing good. It's a sad day in Louisville today. As you know, yesterday, Junior Bridgman passed away.
You know what? I'm glad you reminded me that. I saw that late last night. And yeah, that was, no, it was unexpected. And what a titan in business, first of all, more so in business than anything. He passes away worth over $1 billion. And this is the guy who started out playing high school basketball. Is it East Chicago Roosevelt?
Washington.
But on potentially is it potentially the greatest high school team ever in Indiana? Or
yeah, I think a lot of people say it'd be that team or George McGinnis's team or maybe one of the Marion teams with Jay Edwards and Lyndon Jones.
Anything that George McGinnis is on, I'll argue that he's it, because he is, I don't care. He was more impactful than Larry Bird was, and that's hard for people to understand. I wish that I would have gotten to see him play. But I know how dominant he was because he did it such a young age. But that dude was he's one of the greatest ever that does not get mentioned enough as one of the greatest ever, I think.
I agree. I mean, he played, that was back in the era when freshmen had to sit out. So he didn't play as a freshman after he led Indianapolis, Washington with Steve Downing to the state title. Then he played 1 year and went to the Pacers, and he was in the ABA and didn't get as much publicity as a lot of the big names at the time. He finally got his title at one point, and but back to Junior Bridgman. Yeah, he's from East Chicago, Washington. Came to Louisville.
Beat Floyd Central in 1971 at the Final Four with Pete Turgovich and Mel Stoddard.
102 to 88 in Hinkle Fieldhouse. I was there.
Then
he came to Louisville. He was one of Denny Crum's first recruits, and he's the guy who got Crum launched in the right direction. He and Alan Murphy, if you remember that name.
And it was on from there as Denny Crum. And then yesterday, I was fortunate to have Scotty Davenport on with me. He, obviously just retired from Bellarmine there in Louisville, but he has so many Indiana connections. But he was an assistant to Denny and to Rick Pitino. I didn't realize he was an assistant for as long as he was.
Yeah, he started out with Crum, and Pitino kept him and made him lose 73 pounds and refocused his energy on the right things. And he made Bellarmine a Division II national power. Now they're a Division I program. So yeah, it's been quite a week here, and we're just getting started in the conference tournament play tomorrow.
Absolutely. Louisville, one of only 3 teams expected to make the ACC NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they went 18-2 in the ACC. Hard to believe, and
that's the thing. The teams are at the top. You've got Louisville went 18-2,
Clemson 18-2, and Duke 19-1.
That is really freaky because after that, it's like
mediocrity. Carolina, SMU, Wake Forest, all those teams are bubble teams. But
so are those teams, Louisville, Clemson, Duke, are they that good?
I mean, Duke is. I think Duke is. They beat Auburn, and they've got some really good win. They blew out Illinois, as you remember that game like 3 weeks ago.
That I talked about. They destroyed
Illinois. That is right.
That was
Junior Bridgman and I, same high school class. Yeah, they blew out Illinois. Duke's really good. I think Louisville's really good. I know they've only played one ranked team since the first of the year, but I watched almost all of their games, and they play smart. They play both ends of the floor. They don't take bad shots. They either shoot layups and dunks or 3-pointers. They don't take any mid-range shots. And they've got a really elite point guard in Chucky Hepburn, and that's the winning combination. I think they can win a couple games in the tournament.
Yeah, it's there's no reason not to, and they're a pretty
Now,
talented team.
IU fans will probably have their eye on Clemson to see what a Brad Brownell team looks like.
Yeah, he is not I would say he's not popular among the fans, but mainly because such a high proportion of Indiana fans right now want Chris Beard, and I get that. He's without question probably the best remaining candidate from a coaching standpoint, it would seem. And as far as it would seem. I just have I don't think that he is in the pool personally.
You don't think they're considering him?
Beard, I don't.
Oh, you said okay. Yeah, I don't think they are either. I noticed that, I read Peaks, and I noticed they've done a flip flop. A week ago, they were really pushing Chris Beard, and
Imagine that.
and right now they've backed away from it.
Huh? Imagine that. Well, I guess a week's worth of readers that'll help, though, right?
I mean, who do you think the front runners are? I mean, I'm having a really hard time trying to get any kind of concrete
I am as well. Well, Scott is doing the job that he said he was going to do. He is going to do it under the radar. He knows he can't tell the board of trustees jack squat because that is the biggest leak anywhere. You tell the board of trustees, and I got news for you. Somebody's going to know within 30 minutes. But I think that he is the search committee is allowing him to keep it leveled out to we've looked at all these different guys, and there's no because you can't talk to anybody, so that helps with keeping some things down, and you can only go through the agents right now. And if I'm sure they're saying this cannot get out, but it's not any good for the opposing coach for it to get out either. He doesn't want it out. So
the one that made me laugh was Jeff Goodman initially said Indiana needs to go after Scott Drew or call Scott Drew or whatever it was. And then he shifted to the guy they need to go after, the guy they need to make contact with is TJ Otzelberger.
Yeah.
Then the other day he tweeted, Stevens is out, May is out, Drew is out, Otzelberger's out, just as I thought they would be. It's like, you just said they should contact them. Now you're saying you thought they were out. I mean, make up your mind.
Clickbait, but people fall for it. And I think that's it's hard for me to, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I would never purposely put something out that I thought or knew wasn't true. And I just don't see how any of that stuff was put out with the belief it was true. Right. Because every time it came out, I'm like, that's not true. I would spend half my day answering people. I'm like, that's not true. It's not true. When the stuff came out about Beard a week ago, I'm like, that is inaccurate. That is not true. But people will believe it because they want to believe it.
Right. So, there's a lot of stretching of reality in all this, and there's a lot of people who are pretending that they have people who are telling them stuff who really know what's going on, who really don't. Because, the way I look at it, the only people that know what's going on are Scott Dolson and the search firm. I don't think he's sharing anything with anybody else. Maybe one person. I don't even know who that would be.
And these donors are not in the know right now.
No, they can't be. They can't be, because all it takes.
And how many times have you heard, I spoke to a well-connected donor and blah, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, right. It does not happen. Right. But getting back to what you said a minute ago, I don't know who, because it's getting the pool is getting smaller. There's no doubt about that. But Chris Collins is the name that I started talking about yesterday, not because I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm like, you know what? He's a solid coach. He's successful, and he's been successful with few to no resources. Great basketball family, great basketball mind. He's young enough, great personality. I think he would do well. I think he would be a good fit at Indiana. And so a lot of fans are all out poo-pooing it because he hasn't won a ton. He's been at Northwestern, man. It's one of the hardest places definitely in the Big Ten to win, but period. It's just a tough place to win when you're a Vanderbilt, a Northwestern, one of these schools that it's hard to get players in to pass the entrance exam. I couldn't get into Northwestern. Hell, half the people that are listening to this show couldn't get into Northwestern. It's tough, but he's that's the only name that's kind of for me. I don't know. I don't like Ben McCollum because I don't think he has quite enough experience yet, but it's more because I couldn't stand to watch that offense for the next 5 years.
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned Chris Collins last week, and I've mentioned Chris Collins and people I've conversed with for a while. I think he'd be a solid choice, and I'll tell you why. If you dig a little deeper, I think I looked it up last week. I think it's since 1949. He's the only coach at Northwestern since 1949 to have any seasons when he won more than 60% of his games, and he's done it 4 times. Before him, not one coach at Northwestern won 60% of his time. So that tells you that he has won at a place that's been really hard to win. Secondly, he's the first coach to take him to the NCAA tournament. He's done it 3 times, and every time he won 1 game. Thirdly, you look at his team this year, and they were really competitive until Barnheiser got hurt. And he's doing it with Barnheiser and Martinelli and all these dudes who a lot of Big Ten teams wouldn't even have been able to recruit. He can recruit a higher level player at Indiana. He learned how to recruit under Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. I agree with you. He's got an upbeat, positive personality. Anytime he's played IU, he's been very complimentary of Indiana University. And, I think that, I don't know. I just think he's got a lot of good qualities that he could succeed at a job with more resources. And by the way, who's the one coach in the Big Ten Mike Woodson never beat? It's Chris Collins, 5-0. He's won his last 5 against Indiana.
Great point. That's a great point. That's one you write down and keep. Wow. So there's something to put in your cap when you go to apply for a job. But he's
still young. I think he's only 49 or 50 years old.
Yeah, he's got to be up there. He does. He's got experience. He's got experience in the Big Ten. As I'm trying to, I don't. Brad Brownell doesn't really. He's okay, but he's okay. That seems like an okay hire. Mick Cronin. I don't think that the fans would really. They'd like if he was winning, it wouldn't matter. But
I think with Brownell, what's going to happen is the popularity of his candidacy is going to rise or fall on how his team does in the NCAA tournament. If Clemson gets to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, he'll become a sexier candidate. If Clemson gets beat the first weekend and Indiana hires him, there'll be a pushback against it. So we'll see. I mean, they've had a good year this year. I mean, they beat Duke. They beat Kentucky. They've got some signature wins. I know they lost to Louisville. They lost a couple of other early games that were ugly, but last year he went to the Elite 8, and this year, as I said, I think the popularity of his candidacy will depend on what he does in the NCAA tournament.
And a lot of fans they keep talking about Ben McCollum as if he is the leading candidate. And I keep asking, okay, leading according to whom? Whom are you getting this information from? Because there is no information. There is no leader. There is no known leader. There is no. And
I think the reason people say that is they try and make a connection between Cignetti and McCollum, saying if Indiana was trying to hire the Cignetti of basketball, who would it be? A guy who's down a level, has had success. The difference is Cignetti had a success for 4 or 5 years at James Madison. Now, McCollum had tremendous success this year at Missouri Valley. He's going to the NCAA tournament. He's 30-3. He beat Vanderbilt and a couple of other teams. But most of his success is at Division II. And I agree with you. The one thing I've had a couple people tell me this, that they don't think that style of play will resonate at Indiana. They play the slowest tempo of any team in the country this year. I mean, I'm talking about anybody. Number 364 in tempo.
Yeah, Dylan Sinn mentioned that a minute ago. And I'm like, I could not watch that for the next 5 years or whatever. And I think that would not be fun. Winning is always fun, but boy, there sure is more exciting ways to win. And that just doesn't seem like something an Assembly Hall crowd would they'd be falling asleep, man.
The other thing I'll say about him is, I mean, there's no guarantee he would want to come to Indiana. I think there's at least a 50% chance that if Iowa loses today in the Big Ten tournament, that Iowa's going to move on from Fran McCaffrey, and that Ben McCollum is going to be the choice at Iowa. And he would be a sensible choice there because he's from Iowa, and Iowa fans, I think, are ready for a change from the Fran McCaffrey style of play, which is play
and
fast.
Boy, would that be a change.
And guard nobody.
You want to talk about it? That's going to be a 180 at Iowa if that turns out to be the case, from scoring 85, 90 points a game and giving up 100 to both teams below 50. Man.
So keep your eye on what does Iowa play? Are they the first game today?
They play today. I think they play Ohio State, I believe, in a
they'll play at about 6 o'clock. The first game is Northwestern. So you got Chris Collins against Minnesota at 3:30. Then you got Iowa, Ohio State, and then you got Southern Cal at Rutgers to end it.
Yeah, and for Indiana, tomorrow's game I think is a win or go home. They're DeCourcy and Lenardi have them in the play-in game right now. So if you lose off the play-in line, I can't imagine them just dropping them 2 spots, but possible, I guess. Oregon is a higher seeded team. They're ranked. They're not supposed to win that game. So that's another thing. When you're in a game you're not supposed to win, you shouldn't be expected to win. And if you lose, are you punished for that?
Yeah. The bigger danger will be, if you got some shocking conference tournament results and you get some teams that get in the tournament that otherwise wouldn't have got in without winning the conference tournament. But I agree with you. I think if Indiana beats Oregon, they're probably in the field. If they lose, I don't think they will make it. So it's a big game for them, and it's a game they should win. I mean, they played Oregon just a week ago to the wire. We're ahead with a minute and 45 seconds to go and lost by 9. This game's in Indianapolis. They'll have 100 fans there, 500 fans there for every Oregon fan that's there. Oregon's not going to have any people there. They're not going to travel across the country for the Big Ten tournament. And it's a noon game, and for Oregon, that's 9 o'clock on their body clock time. I believe that is an advantage for Indiana. So they don't have any excuses. They need to win that game.
Coolio says lots of doping over Goodman. Everyone has turned the IU job down. First of all, who has turned the job down? It hasn't been offered to anybody. After a lot of fans were acting very picky, yes, Goodman seems to rub it in, but don't try to act like he doesn't know what's going on. Well, does he? He's put out 3 different things that were wrong. So he doesn't know what's going on in regards to this. I'll tell you that. And nothing against Jeff. He's a great guy, but you could just look at the information. It was not accurate. So to say that
what I don't like is don't say they need to call Drew and they need to call Otzelberger. Then he switched from Drew to Otzelberger and then say, yeah, they don't want the job. I mean, it seems like there's a contradiction there for me. It's like you already knew they probably didn't want the job because I know he's tight with Drew. I don't know if he's tight with Otzelberger or not. It just seems a little bit disingenuous to me.
Brian says, we don't know that the job hasn't been offered to someone.
No, we don't.
Well, but what is the likelihood that has actually been able to happen in season? They didn't have to offer it to Dusty because before they could do that, he went ahead and, in essence, turned the job down by signing that extension. But of course, he probably let his agent know that he was going to stay instead. And I guess that could be considered turning the job down. But Brad Stevens didn't turn it down. I mean, if you want to consider him turning it down, fine. He wasn't an option. You were not getting Brad Stevens. So,
Right.
I mean, I could offer him to be my driver, and he can turn that down, I guess. But I don't think it's. But then TJ Otzelberger, if he's out of the running, then he probably then in essence he turned the job down.
I mean, if turn down the job might not be the right offer because you're not really.
I don't think it is.
It's like, do you want to talk about it? No, I don't. I like it where I'm at. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. That's not unusual. That happened last year
Louisville
at Kentucky
and
at
Kentucky.
Louisville.
Yes.
Yeah,
and how did that work out? I keep telling people, and how did that work out? Louisville is the best example. Pat Kelsey is somebody you never heard of. He was at the College of Charleston, and he took a brand new roster at Louisville and crafted them into a top 20 team into the NCAA tournament in his first season. Enough said.
Well, I'll tell you another one is Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin was the 4th or 5th pick at UCLA. They wanted Rick Barnes, John Calipari, Jamie Dixon, and I think there's one other one. And Jamie Dixon, they couldn't get TCU to move off the buyout. And eventually Cronin just hung in there and he got the job. And I've talked to a couple of people who've gone for jobs and gotten jobs and know how the hiring business works. And what's likely happened to this point right now is that the guys that Indiana is actually interested in, they've made contact with either the coach or the agent to find out if they're interested. Are they interested or not interested? You know, and if they are interested, it's like, okay, when the time is right, if we really want you and you're interested, we'll have serious conversations then. All they've probably done to this point is have their list of these are people who want to seriously talk to us, and they've probably got them ranked. And once some of these coaches fall out of the NCAA tournament, that's when this is going to heat up and it's going to get really crazy. And all these national people who are connected to agents are going to start tweeting out a bunch of stuff about this is the guy and this guy's turned it down or this guy's got the job, and it's going to get insane.
Now Heath is making a great, this is a name that I have not heard for this. Pat Kelsey. He only has $1 million buyout. Is that right?
I'm not sure what his buyout is, but he's not leaving Louisville after 1 year. He loves it here.
No, he wouldn't. Although, if you remember down at in the Bahamas, he talked about growing up being an Indiana fan.
I vaguely remember that before he beat him by 38 or whatever it was.
Exactly. Before he went out and crushed their souls.
Right. I can't see him leaving. I really can't.
Me either. But it's funny that his name hasn't been brought up.
I mean, Patino's has been. I see Patino on some of these lists. I don't think he would do it because he loves New York and he loves the Garden and he loves the Big East and he's moved a million times.
Indiana would never do
anybody that has the ego to say, I'm the only guy that coached Kentucky, Louisville, and Indiana, it is Rick Pitino.
And took them to the NCAA or whatever.
He
would have been. Can you imagine if Indiana would have gotten him 4 years ago?
Yeah.
They would be playing in Final Fours.
Or 8 years ago when they got Archie.
I mean, yeah. We've got to take a break. The great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. The Big Ten tournament underway today, and the NCAA tournament soon to follow. Back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this break. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemoreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue. And you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along. It is tournament week as the Big Ten tournament getting underway today up in Indianapolis at not Lucas Oil, but Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and ACC tournament already underway. I would assume. Does the SEC get underway today or tomorrow, Rick? Rick Bozich with us from WDRB.com.
It's today in Nashville.
I know they have they have all of their teams probably playing in the tournament. They have 16 teams in the conference or 14?
16.
16. So are all 16 of the teams playing in the SEC tournament?
That's correct. Yeah. South Carolina is the worst team, and they open against John Calipari in a big game at noon today. And if Arkansas loses that one, they will fall out of the tournament. And if they win, they'll stay alive. That's a big game. Yeah, Arkansas already lost to South Carolina twice. You can't lose to them once. You can't lose to them twice and expect to make the NCAA tournament. So that game's on at noon on the SEC network.
All right, Indiana considered on the definitely on the bubble, but both DeCourcy and Lenardi have them in the play-in game, which if they lose, any chance that they get in?
IU?
Yeah. To Oregon.
No, if they lose to Oregon, I don't think they'll make the tournament. They'll be in the crown, baby. You'll be doing the show from Las Vegas.
Well, we talked about that a minute ago. We'll talk about that again. But all right, let's say that Ohio State beats was it Iowa they play today?
I think so.
And which is a lower seeded team. They're playing on the first day, which is that an advantage? If they win their first game, lose their second game, does Ohio State move up past Indiana and stay in the tournament? Because they have the opportunity to play,
I wouldn't think so. Beating Iowa's not really going to give you much credibility. They'd have to beat Illinois, I think, the next game.
I think that might help Indiana if they did lose, because you maybe be able to keep Indiana in the bottom of the play-in if they were to lose. Now, they're more than capable of winning the game. It's going to be a quasi-home game for Indiana. They played well with Oregon out in Eugene until the end of that game kind of fell apart for them. But maybe the home crowd gets them reinvigorated. But they just need to take all doubt out and win the damn game.
Yeah, I mean, the games Indiana fans need to watch today, like from the SEC, they could use South Carolina beating Arkansas. They could benefit from Vanderbilt beating Texas, and they could benefit from Georgia beating Oklahoma. If Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma all win, those are three teams that start to crowd Indiana on the bracket. So they need some of those teams to lose. In the ACC, there really isn't anything to watch today because none of the teams that are playing are going to make the tournament. I don't know the Big 12 bracket well enough to know. To me, the focus is on the SEC. What's Arkansas going to do? What's Texas going to do? And what's Oklahoma going to do?
Yeah, Oklahoma, one of those teams also on the play-in side of things, right above Indiana. So that's the team to keep aware of as well. Not as many bid stealers this time around, which is helping these teams because in a normal year, I don't think any of those four teams that are on that play-in line would be on the play-in line right now.
Right. I agree. I mean, Indiana benefited from Drake winning the Missouri Valley. If somebody else would have won, that would have been a bid steal. You got to look in the Atlantic 10. If VCU gets upset, that'll be a big bid stealer. Gonzaga won the West Coast Conference tournament, so either Gonzaga or St. Mary's was going to make the tournament. You didn't have a bid stealer there. The other, chances is you've got some long shot team that either wins in the Big East. And I don't even know who that would be. That would have to be like a Butler or I'm trying to think of a Xavier. That's a team that Indiana needs to lose is Xavier. In the Big 12 would be like if a Cincinnati got hot and won the Big 12 tournament. In the Big 10, who would be a bid stealer? Nebraska could be a bid stealer, I guess, if they got hot.
There's no way.
There's no way. But people said that last year about NC State, and they won 5 games and won the ACC tournament and went to the Final Four. So there is a way. I mean, but
how strong was the ACC last year? I don't remember.
It wasn't that strong, but they had to win 5 games. I mean,
But it's more difficult to win 5 games against teams that are that much better than you are.
Right.
But I get what you're saying. There's a chance. It's not impossible, and it's happened. Michigan.
What about a team like Rutgers? I mean, they got talent. They'd have to win 5 games. I mean, that would be one.
Yeah.
All the teams that are seated ahead of Indiana are in the tournament. So the only teams they would have to worry about are like the 10 seed is Ohio State. Yeah, you got to worry about them. The 11 seed is Rutgers. Yeah, you got to worry about them. I guess if you said in the ACC, Carolina would be a team. Carolina's got talent. They're probably not going to win the ACC tournament, but if they did, that was a bid steal. Or Wake Forest is another one. They're the 4 seed. They've only got to win 3 games. They'd have to beat Duke in the second game, but Wake Forest would be a bid stealer. So
yeah, Nebraska.
All it takes is 1 or 2 crazy results like that, and that would hurt Indiana's chances.
It won't be Nebraska. They're not playing in Indianapolis.
Oh, there we go. See, that's how much of a long shot they are.
They
beat Indiana decisively for the 800th straight time. I figured they were a 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament.
They were one of 5 teams tied, and they lost the tiebreaker. And they had just come off of a double overtime 2-point loss at Ohio State.
Right.
So
I forgot that they collapsed late in the year. That's my bad.
Yeah, looking for a Xavier loss. That will help Indiana as well.
Every time I watch Nebraska, they win because they've beaten Indiana at least 4 in a row. So I figured they were safely in the field.
I've talked about this earlier. I don't think that if Indiana fails to make the NCAA tournament, I think that they ask for some kind of release to not have to play. I'm serious.
From the crown?
To not play. Yes, because what if, since that's not as difficult of a tournament, obviously, what if they went a little further than the team of the coach who ends up being the guy? That would be a weird situation.
No. I don't know the legalities of it. I've heard that you're not allowed to turn a bid down to the crown.
Well, I think that is the truth, but I think that they could also ask for and be released from it. And with
turn it over to Yasir Rosemont and roll with it, baby. Let Tim Garl coach the team.
Probably rather have Calbert Cheney coaching the team, but
I saw Calbert did the radio show this week. Woody's going out
You know, I wanted to go out there, but with the time change,
I know that you
too
have
hard.
Fish on every week. Has he talked about it at all?
Just one time early on, and he said, you know what, I guess he's upset with me. It could have been something I said here. And then I sent you that. I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh man. And that happens to be one of the most viewed videos of ours in a while. And it's got that, and I'm like, oh, I hope that wasn't it. But it's not that I don't care, because it's childish, but yeah. I think it's funny. He's being paid to do that stuff. Now I wonder, is when he sends all those guys out, is he said, all right, well, I receive X for this, I'll give that to you.
I don't know. I mean, there's less than 2 weeks to go. I hope everybody can play nice in the sandbox and finish it out the right way, and we don't have any ugliness on the way out the door, because Mike
What
Woodson.
did you think about how the senior day festivities that were changed this year? Normally all the players get to give a little speech of their own to talk to the crowd. That was all recorded. Mike Woodson was mostly a thing was recorded about him. I think that he did good. There was nothing said negative, and so I guess they got out of that just fine.
I understood it. I'm sure Indiana wanted to make sure that nothing negative came out of that upset fans or caused a controversy. They want this to end as peacefully as possible, but I didn't like it because the tradition goes all the way back to when Bob Knight was the coach. And I know a lot of fans enjoy that game, whether they're there in person watching it or they're watching it on television. They want to see what these guys have to say. And again, that goes back. Woodson ruined it, because Woodson made that comment last year about real fans or true fans or whatever it was. And Leland Galloway enhanced it by telling people to chill and all this other stuff. And it's like, you know, you play and let fans be fans, and they'll decide the way they want to be fans. And anybody, like, I got in a debate with a Mike Woodson supporter the other day, like, anybody that thinks that a 10-10 record in the Big Ten in your fourth year there and getting blown out by Louisville and Iowa and Illinois and being a bubble team in the NCAA tournament is the standard at Indiana is not being realistic.
Absolutely. And now that we are in this part of the crazy season, when do you think an announcement is likely to come? I think it possibly could. The earliest I see it is after the second weekend, close to the Final Four, or right after the Final Four.
Yeah, I agree. After the Sunday of Sweet 16 weekend, when we're down to 4 teams, you got 16 teams on the Thursday. It'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow. Is when the Sweet 16 weekend begins, and on Sunday you're down to 4 teams. Between that Sunday and the Final Four on the weekend that week, unless the coach is in the Final Four, and then I doubt if he's going to leave to come to Indiana. So I think it'll be that week.
Who's your Final Four?
I like Auburn, and I know that's not a dramatic pick.
It's hard not to. You can't not.
Something about me, because Duke has freshmen, and I'm not totally crazy about their guards, thinks they're going to get upset. I like Florida. I think they're the really good team that is overlooked. And my dark horse team is Maryland. I think Maryland's been really good recently. The only game they lost was on that crazy shot by Michigan State. They can shoot the ball. They've got talent. I mean, I'm going to look it up right now. I mean, they've won a bunch of games recently, and they've won what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 11 of their last 13. And one of the losses was that loss to Michigan State. So for a dark horse team, I'm going with Maryland. And Houston,
I like them.
I mean, Houston is just solid. So those are my 4: Maryland, Houston, Florida, and Auburn.
Sounds great. Are you coming to Indianapolis at all?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably going to come tomorrow, but then part of me thought just wait and come on Friday. But then I thought, well, what if they don't play on Friday?
Exactly.
Do you think
Exactly.
they're
Smart man.
Do you think they're going to win tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't, because when they have pressure on them, a lot of times they haven't always come through. But they did the last game out against Ohio State. And as long as they don't get down too far, because they've had a tendency to get down and be a second half team. But they definitely can. They match up well, and it's a quasi home game. So
I'll probably come tomorrow, because if they win, I think that does put them in the tournament. And if they lose, then it might be the farewell. So I'll probably come tomorrow. So I'll look for you. I guess I read the email. There's no reserve seating. It's first come, first serve.
luckily, I'll be doing the show there and get there early.
Up in the upper arena. Is that where we're at?
I have no idea.
There's no more courtside seating. I saw that.
That's right. I forgot about that. We'll find out. Sir Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Appreciate you, brother.
Save me a seat.
I will do just that.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Jim.
We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this break.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday of tournament week. Thank you so much for being with us. Big Al says it's duck season again, as it's open for hunting ducks as the Oregon Ducks land in Indianapolis to take on Indiana tomorrow in the first game of the day at noon. We'll be coming to you from Gamebridge Fieldhouse tomorrow as day 2 will be underway. So Caleb says that Ken Palm has Oregon winning 74-72. I expect it to be that kind of a game. Absolutely, because Oregon doesn't have to win this game, but it may affect their seeding in the NCAA tournament, but they don't have worries. So Indiana's going to have to battle their butts off. And I expect a close game, absolutely, in that. Hopefully, Indiana can pull it out and play again on Friday, because winning that game will absolutely, not only would it secure an NCAA tournament berth, I think it might move them off of the play-in game line, which would be better yet. So hopefully they can get that done. Mo Hoosier did not like the senior day change, says Woody screwed it up. And I have to agree with you. I agree with Rick. It's why there was no reason to change. The fact that it had to be changed was simply because of making sure that, like Rick said, there wasn't anything negative or that went out. That should not be an issue. You shouldn't have to worry about that at your home on senior day. If you do, then you have the wrong type of people in your organization. So Derby says I hopes that Rick goes to the game. He brings great insight. But I appreciate that very much, Derby. But Rick's the best. He'll end up there. I have no doubts. He'll end up there. So I'll have to save him a seat. Yeah, it's weird. Media, we're used to wherever they put us. You have a reserve spot, so that's not an issue. And now it's like open seating at a concert, man. So that's not going to be any fun, especially when you're trying to work to get stuff done. Brian says, can you imagine the number of chill emails Dosen got? By that, what do you mean? Telling people to chill? I'm not sure. Didn't understand what he meant there. Let's see. Looking forward to it. I may head up to Indianapolis today, like I said, to take in a little bit of the action, pick up the credential, get the lay of this year's land. But I love it being in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It is a great facility for this event. It should always be there. It won't be, but that's the unfortunate part. But couple more weeks, people. Couple more weeks, and you won't have to worry about rumors or thinking or wondering or any of that. Derby says, can you imagine how many IU fans will show up to Gainbridge Fieldhouse tomorrow at noon after they beat Indiana? It's MSU at noon Friday. Tough game, as I know Indiana beat Michigan State previously at Michigan State, but ever since then, it lit a fire under the Spartans for Tom Izzo, and they went on a five-game winning streak to close out the Big Ten title. So Indiana, great win. They beat the Big Ten champions. One of the few teams to do that. That's a great win on their resume. And if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be in this even consideration for this tournament. So looking forward to seeing everybody up in Indianapolis. If you're going, if you see me, say hey. I enjoy talking to everybody as well. Oh man, don't get that in my head. I'll never get it out. I won't even say it. It's the old name of the stadium. So Aaron said he saw Bob Dylan there 20 some years ago. The speaker system was awful back then. Are you sure that just wasn't Bob Dylan singing? But what a cool thing to see, just because. Yeah, that's a cool one to have on the list. Reagan says a lot of late night prepping Gainbridge with the Pacers playing last night. I was thinking about that, Reagan. That game went late into the night, so they have to change the floor. And I don't know how long that takes. That probably takes 3 or 4 hours to do, because they have the special Big Ten floors that they put down and whatever other changes that are made, but not a lot, but mainly the court. But then you have a completely different setup, seating and all of that for media for this event, as opposed to how it was. So yeah, it was probably an all-night setup deal.
It's like the circus coming to town. Market Square Arena concerts were the best, Derby says. I agree. I saw Paul McCartney there. I saw Billy Joel there. I saw President George H.W. Bush there. Trying to think of any others, but yeah, it was just a cool place with the road running, with Market Street running underneath of it. I kind of wish they would have emulated that in the new stadium. It was just cool, but it's oh, that was the site of Elvis's last concert, by the way. Wild. So wild. Aaron says that place was steep. Man, that's nothing. It was not compared to Assembly Hall. Holy moly. It's a shame. It is a shame that Assembly Hall is such an iconic venue, because it's not that it needs to be torn down. It's just not a good place to watch basketball. It just isn't. Those balconies are the biggest waste of space. And it's awful. Nobody wants to sit up there. I don't blame them. You're like a mile and a half from the game. Boy, if they could have got to change the design and incorporated seating in the end zones beyond those bleachers and really rounded that would have made that arena probably the loudest in America. And I think that they still need to try, if a different arena is out of the question, which it probably is, boy, I would really like to see him do something with seating in the end zones. And I guess you can't tear the balconies out, but block them off. Stop using them. Stop using them. Man, I hope everybody enjoyed the day. We are back tomorrow. We'll be coming to you from Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Looking forward to it. Shannon Griffith, of course. We'll talk some football in addition to basketball. Bob Kravitz on as well. Chris Denary, expected to join him as the Pacers with that huge win last night. And I thought that I was like, oh man, this is not going to be fun. With Chris comes on, I thought the Pacers were going to lose. And then bam, lightning struck with Tyrese Halliburton's 3 and 1. David says he doesn't see how Simon Scott on Summit calls iconic, if not a good place to watch hoops. Well, it's iconic because it was packed for 30 years. People didn't care about the balconies. And because of that, it made it one of the hardest places in America to play. And the teams that have played there make it iconic. Bob Knight, having coached there, roamed those sidelines, makes it iconic. The design itself makes it iconic. But you could be iconic and not great in design, because there's a lot of things to go into it. So there's that. Good day to you, everybody. Appreciate you joining us on the program. Like I said, tomorrow from Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have yourselves a great day. See you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.